some say the sex robots are the next step in evolution, many experts fear that the lack of guidelines and regulations can lead to some alarming consequences. RT's Trinity Chavez has that story.
From delivery drones to automated cars, now there's robots you can have sex with. They're known as sex bots, and while it may revolutionize sex for some, these lifelike dolls have sparked a global debate about moral and legal ethics.
Sex is one of the most fascinating things in the world.
They look like us, talk like us, and they even move like us. These life-size silicone dolls are being created with areas to look and feel as lifelike as possible. Just 4 companies in the US currently produce sex robots, and they can cost a pretty penny. The average doll price is around $5,000, but can go all the way up to $50,000 depending on what kind of accessories you want. Meet the Harmony android prototype from Abyss Creations. She blinks her eyes, changes expressions, carries on a conversation, and has orgasms. These dolls will start around $10,000 and go up from there. But you can't put a price tag on happiness, right? Well, that's exactly what the CEO of Real Doll is trying to create. Mac McMullen told The Times that he is creating a girlfriend with whom the owner can bond, a real relationship with a not real object. I imagine showing up for a date with a can of Valvoline rather than a bouquet of roses.
Do vegans swallow?
You ask the most random questions. I'm sure the nice ones swallow.
Some even claim that sex bots can help prevent the rape of women or child abuse, but experts argue that the machines could actually reinforce sexual disorders like pedophilia and make it more likely for someone to want to act out their desires on real people. But as artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly sophisticated, there have been a trail of legal, moral, ethical, and social concerns that have not been discussed. Amy Van Weisenberg, assistant professor of ethics at the University of Delft and co-founder of the Foundation for Responsible Robotics, says that there isn't a conversation happening in the general public about what is acceptable, permissible, and what should be promoted when it comes to sex robots.
We wanted to point out what was happening both in the world of the technology development as well as in the humanities, in the academic sphere, you know, what ethicists and philosophers were saying about these things, to bring these opinions together and to really start to engage the public on thinking about where we want this technology to go.
Robin McKenzie, director of law and ethics at Kent Law School in the UK, says that there is little law here and legislators may have to regulate sex bots for safety and health concerns.
What I'm saying is that the sex bots of the future will no longer be things. So we need to decide exactly how we should be treating them if we're going to be engaging in sexual and intimate relationships with them. We need to decide on what sort of ethics should be in place to protect them from us and what sort of legal rights and responsibilities and interests they should be seen as having.
Although the product lines are primarily female, there are some male dolls for sale, but some futurologists predict that many will ditch human partners for robots in less than a decade. Reporting in New York, Trinity Chavez, RT.
All right, to discuss this further, I am being joined now by friend of the show, legal media analyst Lionel of Lionel Media. Lionel, you and I did a 30-minute special on this robot takeover stuff. Break it down for me. What's the ethical and moral and legal questions involved, especially with those robots that are made to look like children?
Well, let's get to that right away. First of all, ethical, moral, religious, I'll let other people worry about that. Number one, you know somebody is going to want to buy, and please forgive me, but we're adults. Somebody is going to want to buy either an infant, a child, or an animal, or a barnyard critter, or something,
sure,
with the express purpose of being intimate with that robot. Now, you know and I know somebody's going to say, you can't do that. Why? Well, because that's illegal. No, it's not. And what we're going to be getting into is a thought crime. Because somebody is going to be saying, we don't want you thinking this. So we don't want you to buy any robots. This is what I think the moralistic side of society will invariably, chime in, as you would say. But they're going to look at this and they're going to say, we don't want you to do this because that behavior is illegal. We say, but this is not a child or a goat. This is a machine. Yes, but what you're doing, if it were, would be illegal. To which you respond, but it's not. Mark my words. Now, a while back in 2002, by analogy, the Supreme Court dealt with something which is a little similar. There was something where people were wondering, what happens if you have pornography? That by virtue of CGI or photoshopping or some kind of computer razzmatazz, we could make it appear that a child is involved in some untoward, terrible act, but it wasn't. And the Supreme Court said, no, that's not good enough because that will inadvertently involve other behaviors that are protected. What this boils down to, M-Chan, is that we, of course, have to have a law. We can't allow people to do this. Instead of saying, thank God they want to buy a machine, go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
Don't grab real children, grab the machine.
Now let me tell you something. Walking around New York with all the botched plastic surgery, those robots look more realistic than you could ever imagine. Believe me, especially the ones without the face, trust me. But what we're seeing right now is people are going to be talking about what you are thinking. And the very fact that somebody walks into a store, now, they're going to walk in just like head shops years ago, which you don't know anything about, but somebody says, I want to buy this interesting pen, when in fact the pen is used to deliver drugs. So what you're going to have ultimately is counterfeit sex robots. But remember, this is about thought police. Mark my words.
Lionel of Lionel Media in New York, thank you so much for all of your fantastic insight as always. And he's a real person.
For the past 10 years, I've been working in human-computer interaction and artificial intelligence at Goldsmiths, University of London. Lately, I've been working on sex robots. My parents are so proud of me. So it's quite niche. And when I say sex robots, it's really a shorthand for all kinds of technology that relates to intimacy. So it covers topics like psychology, philosophy, interactivity, attachment, our hopes, our fears, and love. It's about forming intimate relationships with machines and with artificial intelligence. Now, sex and artificial intelligence might sound like a strange mix, but they have some things in common. Sex is central to being human. It's how we all got here. It's a fundamental motivation of humans to pass on their DNA. This maps really nicely to traditional ideas about artificial intelligence, where people were trying to program machines that had goal-oriented behavior. But there's another side to it too. There's a branch of cognitive science that looks at embodiment, how we use our physical bodies to explore the world and make sense of it. Well, you don't get much more embodied than sex. Now, for the purposes of my research, I'm defining sex as any type of enacted sexual behavior. So it's sexual activity that releases the chemicals that make us feel good, the oxytocin, serotonin, the endorphins. It's about pleasure. It doesn't necessarily involve penetration. It doesn't necessarily mean reaching orgasm. It's not heteronormative, and it's not just penis meet vagina. So anything goes. Now, the robot in sex robots. Robots are embodied. They have a physical place in the world, and some of them have artificial intelligence in them. A robot is simply a machine that can automate certain actions, and we already have them around us. We have domestic robots in our homes, like robot vacuum cleaners. They work on factory production lines. There are care robots. There are robots carrying out surgery in hospitals to a higher standard than a human can. And we have robots that we use for companionship as well.
The future is upon us for sure, and I think that it's inevitable that humans and robots are going to coexist.
Matt has been working on this prototype for many years. His company, Abyss Creations in San Marcos, is the leading seller of life-size silicone love dolls. Matt has been selling the dolls for more than 20 years. His clients order them online, but they also send in photos to have customized dolls made. They are delivered in a large wooden box. Now, Matt wants to take the doll success a step further with harmony, combining the silicone doll with realistic robotics.
With the advent of talking to our phones, like we all do, all of a sudden the possibility became very real.
The technology is similar to personal assistant software like Siri and Alexa, except this one is more advanced.
Ours will be customizable in the sense that you can choose traits in the personality that will influence your interactions. And there are going to be moods in place. So if you interact with her more frequently and you interact in a positive way, you're going to get more positive feedback. If you don't interact with her very often, she'll actually become a little sad.
Nice to meet you, Gina. I hope you and Matt have a good day today.
Wow, nice to meet you too, Harmony. There are some viewers who will see this and have a negative reaction. What do you say to those people?
I think that people do have a knee-jerk reaction when they consider the subject matter. They think, you know, that's so strange or that's so out there. I don't see a lot of danger in it. At the end of the day, we really are focusing on the positive benefits of interacting with technology and how can we use that technology to help people who may be emotionally suffering or lonely.
Matt says the majority of his customers struggle with human connection.
I think we all assume that everybody has the same shot in life at meeting someone and finding their soulmate and getting married, having children, and you know, I think that's a nice story, but it's not always the case.
He believes that is the reason he sells more than 600 lifelike dolls a year. They start at nearly $6,000 and go up depending on what the customer wants.
Most of the sales are within the U.S., Texas and Washington state. That's where many of these dolls are headed.
We spend a lot of time to try to get them to, you know, mimic the feel of a real person and be able to sort of capture that feeling that you get when you touch someone.
So I want to think about what other forms that sex robots could take. What's the point in pursuing this human angle? What about all the technology we have that allows us to explore things? What about different textures, different shapes, different movements? These days we've got smart fabrics, we've got e-textiles that respond to touch, so we could make a cuddly robot. We can make a sensual one that can be stroked and can stroke us back. A lot of us are wearing technology that can track our bodies. Things like health trackers that can measure our heartbeat or our skin responses. You can buy off-the-shelf equipment that reads your brainwaves. What if we took that data that we get from those trackers and we fed it into some form of sex technology so that we had something very individual that would respond to our needs? Can we abstract these sex robots the way we abstract sex toys? And can we make something that's really beautiful and malleable and unique?
I am here with an unusual CES attendee, Harmony, the first sex robot from the makers of Real Doll, and I am here with Matt McMullen, the creator of Real Doll and the creator of Harmony, quite possibly the first sex robot to hit the market. So, what are we looking at today that we haven't seen? Because it's been a bit over a year since I visited you in San Diego, and you've made some improvements to Harmony. What are we going to see today?
Well, I wanted to demo how easily an end user could actually change the face on the robot, so you would be able to have multiple characters. So not only changing the face, but also within the app, changing to a different profile, a different avatar with a different voice. Because that's really one of the sort of cornerstones of the design, is that you can have really a multitude of characters that run on the same robotic hardware.
Right, and you're going to be showing us another female face today.
Correct.
As well as a female avatar, but you do have plans, and you're in the works of making a male version of the doll.
Yeah, so had this event been a few weeks later, I would have been able to bring a male head here and show how that works. So that's really coming together right now and should be in a demo state very soon.
Very cool, and you've actually made some changes to the app as well that powers Harmony, the AI app. So not only can you use her in sort of an autonomous mode where you talk to her and she responds with canned responses, but you can also move her into a sort of manual remote control mode.
Right, so I'm not sure what level of this will make it into users app, but the idea is that I'm able to manually move her head around if I want. I can make her smile on command. And I can make her say things, whether I could use sort of a parrot mode where she'll repeat back everything I say, or I can enter lines of dialogue into the app and she'll read them back when I push the button, which is really handy for entertainment, for demoing, when I've done a couple of spots and appearances and I need to have complete control over what she says. It's really handy.
So you are the puppet master.
Well, at the moment, yes.
So over the past year, you've been developing a lot of different things. You've been working very hard on this thing, and I'm sure in trying to improve the AI. What has changed in that time?
A lot of things. I mean, there's a lot that's not immediately apparent in terms of the internal design of the skull, the way that all of the hardware is installed, the way that it communicates with the app. There's really a multitude of things that we've improved on. And I think that we're very, very close to feeling super comfortable starting to release these out into the world.
And it will still be, Harmony will be a modular head, or the LoveBot Agenda will just be a modular head that goes on to the pre-existing real doll bodies.
Or they could buy a new body. And one of the other things that we're working on right now is a full sensor system and full body heating. Both of which can be controlled through the app as well. So,
do you expect that to be available at launch, or?
That will probably be a little bit later this year, but the two are designed to work together. So essentially, if you bought the head and then later bought the enhanced body, you'd be able to plug the head and body together, and then they would be able to seamlessly communicate.
Let's take her face off and replace it with another one.
Sure thing. So, basically, we'll remove the hair.
This is as close as we're going to get to that one Nicolas Cage, John Travolta movie at the CES, I think.
Yeah. And so this is very sort of classic Westworld. The face comes right off, and you can see that all of the sort of moving parts are attached to magnets, and those corresponding magnets are inside of the face. So any character face that I design can be applied to this face.
You could potentially put a male face on the female
bust,
right?
You could, but this head by scale is pretty small, so that's why I designed a completely new one for the male specifically.
If you guys get close in on this, you can see tiny veins in the eyes. The jaw almost looks like the sort of thing that you would see in a dentist's office. When we visited Abyss, there were people working on the tiniest, most minute little things. So there are magnets that are going to attach to the face and just pops right on.
Yeah, so there is a whole array of magnets that are inside of the skull. Some of them move, some of them do not. And they're designed to key into the certain locations on the face. And it was one of the very early cornerstones of the design, and we got a patent on it. So super excited to actually exploit it and see, how much we can get out of it.
Yeah, you don't think much about the sex robot patent industry.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I look at this in a much broader way than just a sex robot. I'm looking at that idea of the magnet and the removable faces that could be used in so many different sort of setups. So you can see that this is a very different looking face than the Harmony face that we just had. This is the Solana face. It's based off of a face that I had done previously. But what I'm going to do now is go into the app and switch to the Solana profile, which is a different voice.
Will the different avatars also have different personality traits?
Yes. So in the app, you can have two separate profiles, each with its own set of personality traits.
Right. In the app, you can actually customize the personality traits, right? So you get to choose if, for example, Solana is
great to see you again.
Cranky.
Keep shining so bright.
Sassy. Or
right. So your two personalities, not only can you have two different faces, but you can have two entirely different personalities, characters, if you will, that run through the same platform.
I just can't wait until you start mixing genders with this stuff, right? Where you get like a male voice inside of a female body, or...
That's high on my list of things to try.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
why
mean,
not?
The gender possibilities are sort of endless in the world, right? So why not have them also
Well,
be
that's the
reflected
idea.
in-
Eventually, although the first iteration of the male app may be a separate app, eventually I want to merge the two so you can actually mix and match and have, you know, different characters that you can channel through different robots, maybe even at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so let's.
So
let's
this
see
is
what she's got.
Solana. She's got a different voice. You'll notice that right away. Solana, what's your favorite classic band?
The Talking Heads. Ha ha.
She likes Talking Heads. So let's.
So she's packed full of dad jokes too. Yeah.
Yeah. Good dad jokes though.
Yeah.
Some of them are, you know, unavoidably funny. Good morning.
Good morning. How can I help you, my sweet Matt?
So you can see it's not a Scottish accent. It's American. And we're in process of adding some more voices so that, you know, people will actually be able to kind of pick from a whole bunch and figure out
Because
which.
theater, not a stage accent, American word processor of adding some more voices so that your people accidentally could have picked.
Dang, girl, she's going on. Obviously, there's still some kinks to work out, right?
Yeah, well, I accidentally pushed the microphone, so she repeated back what I said.
But she also picks it up pretty well, right? Like, I was saying something earlier, and she was parroting what I was saying, right? So, well, this is the second iteration of Vrillex first robot.
Yeah, so it'll be available for sale by the end of January because we're revamping the website, and with all of the new options with the robot and the upgrades that are associated with it, we decided to hold off until our new site was done. So all at once it'll kind of go live and people can order it. We already have a sizable list of pre-orders.
How much are you selling it for right now?
We are still refining the end price because there's some features that are still in development that were originally intended to be sort of included. So the end price for this, like this head as you see it, will probably be between 8 and 10 grand.
Okay. And I imagine that there are all sorts of upgrades and customizations and things just like with your dolls.
We're finishing up a vision system so that she'll actually have facial and object recognition. She'll be able to kind of track you around the room. And
that doesn't sound scary at all.
It's not. It's actually to me one of the more exciting things that we've done so far.
Can she also hunt humans, or that's for later?
No, that's the other robot company.
Sex robots could be used therapeutically to treat sex offenders. There's been a study at the University of Montreal to use virtual reality to rehabilitate sex offenders. But before you think I'm too naive and optimistic, I do recognize there are problems around this. It's not uncomplicated. We might go out with a bang. These are headlines that arose from a conference I organized in December around Love and Sex with Robots, which the media loved. I think that's a little bit too negative, but there are issues. One of my big concerns is around data. So a lot of smart technology collects data, and it's massive amounts of personal information that's being taken and stored and hopefully is safe, but you never know what happens if there's a data breach. Who's got your data? Who owns it? There's already been a lawsuit in the US around data collected from a smart vibrator. There are other legal and ethical ramifications. What happens if we try to treat sex offenders with sex robots, and instead of it being a proxy, it becomes an escalation to further abuse? There needs to be a lot more work in this. Now, a big question that people ask, will humans become redundant? I don't think they will. It's a normal fear that we see repeated throughout time. When the printing press was developed, we were told that books would be a threat due to the sheer amount of information that people would be exposed to. Newspapers were going to lead to complete social isolation. The television was going to destroy family life. We treat new technology with wariness because of the unknown. But I have a degree of optimism. We're living in a technological age. We can't avoid it. We're human in a world that's increasingly full of machines. Artificial intelligence is integrating seamlessly into our lives, so seamlessly that we don't even notice it. Perhaps our robotic counterparts are the key to happiness if we shape them in the right way. Maybe it's time to literally embrace the robots.